on invulnerability zones and something that isn't talked about much in the Overwatch scene that needs to be addressed at some point. You can ignore the two Roadhogs in the game. I set this up so that I could get aerials without map callouts or names, and a few other things so that I can roll like a clip and etc. and explain basically what I was talking about. But I'm going to talk about Tracer, Genji, and pharah and how, in effect, they are heroes that are counterproductive to the game. They are the three heroes in the game that you don't have to do anything with your team and you can win the game. You rely purely on your ability to judge a situation, your ability to do something, and your ability to play. Like, there's no extra stuff about this. It's purely on you. Um, and it's really, really terrible for the game currently because I'll get into it in a minute. There are scenarios and situations where these heroes fall into zones of invulnerability. That means that no matter what you do, unless you invest way more resources than that hero is worth, you cannot deal with this hero unless the person makes an error. And the game should not be about waiting for somebody else to make an error. Because if that's the case, then if you play these heroes perfectly, there is absolutely no chance of you dying, and you should just win every single time. And they are heroes that, arguably, in my opinion, Tracer and Genji have no hard counters in the game. Like, you can say Winston is, but their mobility makes it so that if the Winston tries to chase them, again, he's waiting for them to make an error so that he can capitalize on it. It's not he can close the gap. There is no hero in the game outside of mirroring, Tracer v Tracer, or pharah v pharah, or Genji v Genji that can chase that hero down and stick to it. And mirroring should never be an answer for countering. So these heroes have this zone of invulnerability. And I'm going to demonstrate it with what we've got going on right now on my screen. So right now, we have a standard team fight developing on King's Row first point. So this is no man's land between the two Rhine shields. It's fine. What else is going on in this scenario? And I just deleted everything. Awesome. Add stickers. Because basically, I'm going to go ahead and remove all this for now. All you need to know is the two Rhines are here, so it's pretty easy for me to set this back up. Um, and what's in the back line is irrelevant. And then I need a blue tracer. There's tracer. There's tracer. All right, so what effectively happens with these zones of invulnerability is this tracer is in the back line. Tracer is coming in off of one of two 45-degree angles. She doesn't play in this zone. She shouldn't play in this zone. It's just bad for her. But when she gets into these backline zones that are demonstrated here, what effectively happens is, erase this stuff right quick, that Tracer has a zone of immortality. And the zone of immortality is this. If you have a Reinhardt here, Tracer can shoot this Reinhardt with no punishment whatsoever. Reinhardt, doesn't matter the hero, like I could put a Widow there and Tracer can still shoot at the Widow with near impunity. Um, but Tracer can shoot the hero. It's only going to do like 2 or 3 damage. But in the grand scheme, she can do this forever. She's only limited by the clock. The clock is the only thing that limits this style of play with Tracer. So what happens is this Tracer judges the scenario. So these two Rhines are fighting, and we'll say this Rhine shield's staying up, and this Rhine shield's breaking. He's going to lose his shield. His shield's not there. So what this means is that blue team is now going to pressure this Rhine. And when this team makes this position to push in, this Tracer has no idea about the shield. In most cases, most Tracers do not understand what's going on in the grand team fight right here. What they do is they have been, let me get another sticker out right quick, because this is probably the most common scenario over the last few months. And this is something that still hasn't been addressed, and it probably never will be addressed. But I want the community and anybody who watches this video to start using this, because if everybody starts using this, it'll get addressed. Literally, if you're in the zone of invulnerability with Tracer or Genji, you have the ability to harass this support for the entire game. He can do nothing about it. You just shoot at him, okay? And then I'm gonna put this there, this here. He now has to turn and face this way. And his field of view is 104 degrees. Everybody should have their field of view maxed out. So that should be 104 degrees. So I'll widen it a little bit just so it gets the reference. So you have this zone where he has to look at. And now Zen can no longer see anything that's going on over here. But Zen has to respect this Tracer because of Tracer's kit. So Zen has no clue what the fuck is going on in this fight. At all. Zen has no fucking clue what's going on over here. He has no ability to. Like, communication doesn't help him. Uh, he's in a situation basically where he has to toggle onto the Tracer. There's no other if, ands, or buts. So, Tracer has achieved step one. Tracer has gotten somebody to turn around. Zen starts shooting at the Tracer. Tracer is going to back out. Doesn't have to fight, doesn't have to do anything. Zen turned. The team's pushing in, as we talked about. The team's pushing in here. The Zen is not going to be able to apply his discords to the targets that are in this direction. So Tracer goes out. Zen turns. I'm running out of colors. So we're going to symbolize Zen turns. Zen's facing this way now. Tracer is again going to come back in, and she's going to apply pressure to the Zen. And we're going to get in this situation where the Zen, again, has to turn and respect the Tracer and shoot at her. If the Zen does not, the Tracer immediately capitalizes and kills him. He's just dead. There's no counterplay. There's nothing you can do. You either hit the headshot on the Tracer before she comes in, or you harass her and you zone her out. But this back here, what I'm talking about is this never-ending cycle of forward and backward is a zone of invulnerability. Because no hero in this game can close on the Tracer and kill the Tracer without a one-hit mechanic. So therefore, the Tracer is invulnerable, and the Tracer can effectively harass the backline, harass a tank, and do whatever forever. There is no counterplay to this. Somebody will be like, well, get good and hit a shot. Well, that's the problem. The best players in the world struggle with this, and it's one of the reasons why Soon is so successful, and a lot of the top tier tracers are so successful, is they understand this mechanic. Some people will tell you that, Soon is a mechanical god and he's a fragger and he just understands. Well, I'm going to put it into a perspective of a different style. J3, Jesus for Renegades, is arguably one of the best supportive tracers in the game because he understands this mechanic. He might not get the value and kill the Zen, but he will get everyone to turn because the moment you don't respect him, he capitalizes and gets something for free. It doesn't matter what level you are at the pro play, you're going to abuse this mechanic. And a lot of people don't abuse it in solo queue. So this mechanic means that Tracer can effectively be on the back line and punish the back line or whatever in this zone of invulnerability. Because all she has to do is back out and go back in. It's the hokey pokey. It's the hokey pokey of flanking. And there is no counterplay unless you dedicate more resources to that hero than what else is going on. So here's some rough math that we can go ahead and do in this game right quick. So Tracer's health is 150. So that's Tracer. We'll symbolize that as Tracer. We're going to say you dedicate a support with 200 health. And we're going to say you dedicate a tank. We'll say Winston because he's the hardest counter to these. So that's another 500. You're dedicating 700 of your HP pool that is going to be in this team fight to deal with 150 health. Even if the Tracer doesn't get anything out of this fight that we have going on right here between these two, the other side is immediately swung. And I'm just going to use the offensive and defensive health pool numbers. It should get the point across. The damage is obviously going to be variated based on what defense you have, what offense you have, a few other things. But in general, this is what you're always going to see. Is that's the other 5 people. The Tracer's off in no man's land, doing whatever the hell the Tracer wants to do. And you have Orion, whose shield's breaking, who can do nothing to this. Say he has a Zarya. We'll say he has a support. He has DPS. So you have these 2 fights going on. And what effectively happens in these 2 fights that we have going on, the Tracer won the game immediately because of this mechanic. There is no true counterplay, because no matter how much time it takes to kill the Tracer. So if the Tracer triple blinks, let's go off on a journey here. Tracer had all her blinks. I'm gonna erase some stuff right quick, but you guys get the concept of the zone I set up. Tracer is going to blink, blink, blink. She is now in the middle of the next phase. She's back here. That means that the Winston had to jump, and now he's running to chase her. Let's say the support goes with him. The support had to walk, so the support's going to turn this corner, and he's going to go this way. Tracer's effectively turned the game into a 4v5 without doing anything. There's no death been done. Maybe 6 damage total has been done by the Tracer at range, because the Tracer is purely sitting there waiting for an opportunity on the flank. And the Tracer is going to get this value no matter what if you do it correctly. It's all 100% on you. The other players have minimal outcome on you. It's like seriously a low percentage. And you have other people who literally just have to win a 4v5 because of this mechanic. So let's say the support decides to stay and you have a 5v5 versus a 5v5. You have to dedicate your flex tank or a DPS to go chase this Tracer. Otherwise, the Tracer's just going to sit there with impunity in this zone. But you immediately are at a disadvantage because Tracer's raw kit value is lower than whatever you do. Even if you kill the Tracer, you pull off, the headshot, you still lose economically because they're going to get that 150 health back from the next team. This makes it so that you effectively, as Tracer, are playing 100% in the back line, sitting like a vulture, and you have no risk to yourself. You're flying like away from the team fight. There is no pressure being dealt to you. There is no mechanic that can hurt you. So I'm going to go ahead and end the Tracer one here, and I'm going to set up the Genji one. So we're going to add the Reinhardt again, because Rein, why not? Rein's a good tank to base everything around. And then I need the Gengu. Where's the Gengu? There's Gengu. Alright, so I'm going to put Genji up here. And this is another problem we currently have in the game. Alright, so this Rein shield, and this time this Rein shield's not going to be broken. We're going to be an even team fight, 5v5. Alright, so Genji's raw kit says that Genji is a flanker with resets. Genji's zone is not like Tracer's, where he takes them, 6 phases deep. Genji has a different mechanic, which needs to be addressed. And that is the fact that Genji can effectively manipulate every wall and be Spider-Man. That's the best way I can come up with the analogy. I'll explain it here in a second. So what Genji's going to do is Genji, again, is going to spam whatever he can from where he is, upper. Whether it's upper, he wall climbed, wherever. He wants to be on this backside. And he's just going to keep throwing shurikens. And he's looking to get an ultimate. And by farming perfectly, because you again have to dedicate a resource to deal with this flanker, but there is no good resource. Winston jumps at you. If the Genji is smart, he's going to not use his dash. He's going to wait until your jump is resolved, and then he's either going to dash. So here's the way that the dash mechanic is going to work. I'm going to draw it up here so you guys can see it. So this is going to be Genji. And this is going to be whatever hero you designate to deal with the Genji. So, and we need white. This person closes the distance. They resolve here. When they resolve there, what the Genji does is the Genji is either going to dash back and then wall climb after double jumping, and he's going to be in skybox. And if he is smart, he's throwing shurikens while doing this and generating economy. this person cannot close the gap anymore. There is no mobility that he can do anymore until his cooldown's off, and Genji's cooldown is going to come up faster. If Genji does not want to take this route, so he's backed into a corner, all Genji has to do is dash through the person because of the mechanic, hit deflect, jump back, and then soft reset and go right back to what he was doing. Again, it is a mechanic that, if played correctly, has no hard counter because flex tanks are not strong enough. There is no true counter flanker. They are all basically a mirror. You have to use a Genji to kill a Genji, Tracer to kill a Tracer, which is really, really stupid. So those two scenarios are set for you. So again, Genji's just going to farm. Genji gets up top, Genji just farms. And then we'll make this. Somebody goes after him. I didn't mean to do that. I want to undo button. Mayhem. Mayhem. If you watch my videos and you pay attention. Undo button. God tier. Somebody goes up top and kills the, or tries to kill the Genji. Genji has two options. Genji dashes this way, Genji goes down, or Genji goes out the back. As soon as Genji goes out the back, Genji is effectively playing all of second zone again. It doesn't matter what you do. You cannot close the gap. And what the Genji is going to do is the Genji, again, is going to sit in a situation where he has this zone of invulnerability because you have to dedicate resources to go kill him. And there is not a resource in the game that can counter these heroes. That's why they are seen as the high skill ones, when in fact they're just invulnerable because of the way the kit's designed, and if you play it correctly mentally, you will not lose. Well, one-shot mechanics are counter, but one-shot mechanics are like not a good thing to base the game around. You can hook the Tracer with Roadhog, you can snipe the Genji with Widow, you can fucking blow them up with Junkrat, but that still does not change the fact that this core mechanic, if played correctly around those skills, you cannot deal with this person in this situation. And this situation needs to happen more. Players need to understand this and abuse it so that these heroes can be addressed, because until they play this way, they will never be nerfed, because they're seen as subpar picks, when all you have to do is abuse this zone. Again, Genji is in a high ground. Genji is in the zone of invulnerability. These people cannot do anything to him. They can throw shit at him. The Genji gets hit, it's his fault. Genji gets shot and dies, he misplayed. It is not on the opposing team who capitalized. It's purely the Genji fucked up. If you do not fuck up, you can do this forever. And you're purely setting the stage up so that your team understands what an engage window looks like and then engaging onto it. Literally pulling two people back into this phase, this team wins. You just win. You just win. And it's a really, really poor scenario. So I'm going to set up another scenario real quick. This one isn't as bad because she has a hard counter in the game, but it still feels fucking terrible. And we're going to get into why it feels terrible versus why other stuff has to happen. So again, we have our Rhines. And we're going to set this up with the shield here and the shield here. I have two pharahs in the air because I'm going to demonstrate. People seem to think that you can only play pharah in the air and there's the only one way to play pharah. There's actually three ways to play pharah, and I'll go ahead and I'll put it up because I'm going to explain the third way too. And people just say this isn't the fucking way because it feels terrible. Why not just play Junkrat? Well, here's the thing. If you can force the opposing team to play something, why not? I can literally force their comp, and then my team plays a certain comp, and I win. Because their comp can't beat my comp, even though I'm playing a subpar pick. Which is, in fact, the ultimate goal of anything like this. Which is why I think pharah is by far the most ninja OP hero in the game. Next to Tracer and Genji, which is why I'm talking about these three. Alright, so what is pharah's zone of invulnerability? Pharah's zone of invulnerability is that she can fly. Pharah's zone exists constantly. Doesn't matter where she is on the map, and I'll get into this bottom one in a second. She can fly. So unless there is more than one hit scan, and I'm being very, very specific here, unless you are a Widow, you should be able to annoy this pharah. The pharah, if she plays correctly, will never lose to you because she's going to use the map to her advantage. She's going to use this wall. She's going to use other walls. She's going to use this as a glorified giant Reinhardt shield. And she's going to make it so that you as a hit scan player have to push so that you have an angle to shoot at her. It's the same on the back end too. So that's the front end Pharah, and she's just going to use walls, and she's effectively going to make it so that you have no answer to her. On the back end, once Pharah gets into either one of these windows, Pharah can effectively jump back. Pharah can pull out. And then again, Pharah is using, versus just the wall this time, she's using an entire phase as a giant Reinhardt shield. And you again have to chase this hero. So Pharah has this giant fucking skybox of a fucking Rhine wall because of her ability to fly. She also is the fastest hero in the game. So what does this mean? This means that if Pharah plays correctly, you will never catch her. She will be able to spam rockets at long range, and she will effectively be able to just spam until she gets her ultimate or she creates enough damage for a pick. Again, setting up the situation where any support in the back line is constantly under pressure and has to address that issue. And there is no choice. You don't have an option here. You have to do it. All right, so we're going to get into this bottom one now that I've covered the sky ones. I think everybody pretty much gets why Skybox Pharah, like you run triple hit scan or double hit scan Zenyatta and you just take her out of the sky. But I've had a lot of resistance from people who don't understand what I mean when I say a ground Pharah. So you would play a Junkrat in a pocket, correct? You would just sit there and you would play Junkrat right there behind your ride. You would, use your mines to get around. Here's the thing with ground Pharah. At no point are you anchored to the ground. You don't have to stay on the ground. Your cooldowns are sitting there. You're just not using them passively. You're not using your shift and then your space bar to constantly stay in the air in your zone of invulnerability. Instead, you are waiting to create that zone of invulnerability. So you are creating spam in, this direction, and you're just trying to get damage in, trying to get damage in. Highest alpha damage means you can sit there because there is no ammo in this game, and you can effectively do this type of play, where Pharah can fucking sit behind her Rhine and she's going to win the shield trade. If she does get pressured, so this is where I was getting into the zone of invulnerability she's going to create. If she has, we'll do this real quick to signify. Excuse me. Ah, they're attacking. They're pushing in. So what happens is Pharah, who is playing behind her Rhine, realizes she needs to GTFO, get the fuck out. She can rotate on the ground. She can go out. But there is another option, which is why Pharah is really, really fucking good in the pocket. Versus running away. When they hard commit, what Pharah can do is catapult herself deep. And then in this deep catapult, where she's created a giant, push in, a counter push per se, she winds up in what we talked about earlier. And this is again getting back to the do you have an answer? Did you run double hit scan at the very beginning of a game? Did you get this at the very beginning of the game? Do you automatically have a widow? Do you automatically have, a hard counter to one of these three heroes? Because now, again, she is in her zone of invulnerability. If you do not have the answer to her, she is again creating counter pressure that has to be addressed. If it is not addressed, she's just going to capitalize on it. And Pharah is seen as one of those heroes that is so dominant that she cannot be existed. You can't let a Pharah exist behind you. It's just fact. You cannot let a Pharah, and if she has a Mercy, it's even fucking worse. So effectively, she creates counter pressure in the back line with this tactic, and she was never in the air, but she immediately jumps into her zone of vulnerability. So, highlighting all of those things, each of these heroes, arguably Pharah is the only one I would say that you play around your team, but I have seen enough Pharah Mercy over the last month to say that if I'm playing Pharah and I have a pocket Mercy who wants to pocket just me and then wants to go into tempo swing a fight and allows me to try and carry, we don't play with the team. We don't give a fuck about the other 4 people on our team. As Tracer, I don't give a fuck about the other 5. As Genji, I don't give a fuck about the other 5. I don't care what 5 heroes I have on my team. And like I said, if I'm Pharah, maybe it's 4. But I don't care about them. They have no impact on my play. I am literally going to play this min-max style, which makes it so that I live in these zones of invulnerability. Genji, Tracer, pharah, like they each have one. And what these zones do is they create a situation where, as the defender, you have no choice but to give up either on fighting the flanker or fighting the front line because you're going to lose that fight. And this is a mechanic that needs to be exploited, and everybody needs to start doing this so that it can be addressed. Because these backline flankers having the ability to play in the backline and effectively do whatever the hell they want is creating a situation where we have heroes that have no reprieve, no punishment. If you play this correctly, you can just hard carry a game. You shouldn't be able to. These zones of invulnerability make it so that you can effectively manipulate the game and you are playing a 1v11 basically. And if you're good enough, you can carry, which is a horrid mechanic. So how can we fix this? How can we fix these three heroes? We'll start with Tracer. Tracer needs blinks. Lose a blink. Tracer needs to lose a blink. Or Tracer needs a damage nerf. But I don't mean a flat damage nerf. I will show you what I mean by damage nerf. And I really think this would fix Tracer in a lot of ways, and it would help the game so much with an all-in mechanic. So right now, the way it sits, because of Tracer's guns, there's a scatter. You have a projectile basically of you have this cone that you can't go outside of, but everything inside of the cone you don't give a fuck about. So this is Tracer's cone. And it goes on forever. Forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. So this makes it so that Tracer, no matter what it was, as long as she has a sight line, she can do damage. It might be 1 or 2 damage, but eventually you're going to get to the point where you're going to have to flinch. Doesn't matter how much damage, as long as it's free damage, you eventually have to flinch. Because even if she's doing 1 damage, and she does 1 damage every shot, she fires like 40 shots a clip, and she does like 7 to 10 clips, and then she has 1 really juicy one. She's got free pulse bomb, and there's no way to stop her from generating that ultimate. So what we need to do to Tracer, this is 100% honest, I think that we need to leave her damage the way it is, narrow the cone. Like I'm talking, make it so that, say, this is Tracer's spray now. We need to bring it down to something like this. But when we do this, we need to make it so that Tracer cannot exceed that range. She is a get in quick flanker, deal a bunch of damage, and get the fuck out. That is her core kit. By reducing her range, but narrowing the spread, she retains that value and is arguably fixed because then she has to commit to timing with the teammates. She doesn't have the ability to just spam at range. Her bullets basically need to turn into like little sparklers. She 2 sparklers right in front of her. Also, great idea for skins in the future. You know, totally would be a Chinese New Year skin. Tracer running around with 2 fucking sparklers in her hand and she fucking fires them off. I'm even giving you skin ideas. Doing this makes it so that Tracer's mechanic is broken. She no longer has the zone of invulnerability because she has to close. It gives you a better window to kill her, and she has to wait on her cooldowns. So that's how we fix Tracer. Now we get to fucking come to the pain in the butt one. So here is Gengu. How do we fix Genji? We have the Shimada brothers. We have Genji and Hanzo. Everybody knows originally they were supposed to be the same hero. But it turned into the, how the fuck do we balance this thing? It just doesn't work. Genji needs to lose double jump. Genji does not need the double jump. Genji never needed the double jump. Why does Genji not need the double jump? Hanzo needs the double jump. So here's the scenario that I'm going to give you. Why to justify Hanzo getting the double jump. And this actually helps fix Hanzo too. So if you have a Hanzo behind a Reinhardt shield, you have to effectively wall climb at the moment. You have to wall climb up here to be able to shoot an arrow over this goddamn fucking shield. Or over the opposing shield. Same concept. So in fact, we take the wall climb away from Hanzo, and we give him Genji's double jump. So Hanzo, who was in the pocket behind his Rein, can now jump, jump, and shoot the arrow over the shield. Like it was like I don't understand how these two got mixed up, because this literally fixes Hanzo to be a pocket person. He can shoot over shields with double jump. He effectively can brawl, and it gives him a second chance with being able to dodge somebody who's really close. And I find the fact that an archer being able to double jump is way more appealing. So when we do this and we give Hanzo the double jump, what does Genji get? Because Genji has wall climb. What we need to do to Genji is when he loses double jump is we need to make it so that he can Spider-Man. He can only be stopped wall climbing when he hits the skybox. So effectively any wall he can go up until he hits the skybox. Once he hits the skybox, he can basically do whatever he wants. He can fall down, he can fall into the opposing team, he can fall back, he can poke from range. He's a freaking ninja. Him climbing a fucking wall makes sense. I'm sorry. It just doesn't make any sense that fucking he has wall climb and double jump. The other option, and this is one that I'm a huge proponent for. I don't know how this would affect him in the long run, but I think this would be really, really good. Lose resets. Less ulting. So everybody's seen it. There's got to be a clip somewhere of Genji effectively doing this. Genji was in his zone of invulnerability, and then he sees that 50 health target. And because of Genji's sword mechanic on his shift, Genji goes 50 damage. I hard reset, 50 damage, hard reset, 50 damage, hard reset, 50 damage, hard reset, 50 damage. He has dealt 250 damage to fucking tanks off of dash resets because they play clumped up. They're playing as a team how they're supposed to. And this dash reset mechanic makes it so that Genji has 250 dash burst damage that he shouldn't have had. So Genji effectively, I don't mind getting the reset on Blade, because Blade is a melee ability. With shurikens and the ability to poke and set up this first kill, that's all Genji has to do. Genji has to set up this first kill and then hope spam was done to these four. And if he gets it good enough, he can chain. You just chain it, which is a shitty mechanic. He just sits in his zone waiting for that scenario to happen. And a good Genji who's playing that style will never get killed. So now we get to the odd one. Pharah. Fariha. So Miss Fariha. We're going to talk about Pharah. How do we fix Pharah? Pharah is the only hero that can fly outside of Mercy. Not counting fucking Genji, because he can fucking fly, apparently. And I think that's a really, really cool mechanic. I actually like the ability that she applies vertical pressure. She has the ability to transition without a movement cooldown. She has the jetpack. It's part of her suit. Pharah doesn't need a monstrous buff here. What we need to do is we need to micro the airtime. We need to make it so that Pharah spends less time in the air, but that time is hella impactful, like she was originally before we changed the fucking jetpack time. I have no idea whose idea it was, but it's fucking retarded. Why would you make her in the air the entire time? It's just it's mind-boggling to me, especially in the first fight. First fight Pharah is not fair unless you open a hit scan, and then we're getting into the I dictate your comp because a hero exists. So you're only allowed to open these things. You can flex afterwards, but you have to open these things, because if you don't, you lose the first point automatically. But in turn for doing this, Pharah needs a damage boost. And I'm not talking anything major. She just needs plus 30 damage on her rockets. You can even take a rocket away. Give her plus 30 damage and remove a rocket. And that brings her more in line with Junkrat. And then she can't fly in the air all the time. Why is that 30 damage important? So when Pharah, like I said, is playing here, here, or here, she effectively is just spamming. It's just it's that inevitability of I could shoot this entire distance and it doesn't fucking matter. Eventually, I'm gonna throw enough shit at the wall, something's gonna stick, and that splash damage generates ult charge. And again, this game is all about ult economy. So what does the 30 damage do? If she has a Mercy, it pushes her damage up to 200 a direct. 200 a direct should be a thing. Pharah Mercy should be a 200 direct, and then we can get into dealing with Mercy, because Mercy's not in ideal state anyway, and Mercy's going to get reworked. Res is probably going to get removed because everybody's bitching about it and it's not a good mechanic. Yet we endorse these one-shot mechanics in these zones of invulnerability. So what we need to do is we need to make it so that that 200 damage becomes a core mechanic for Pharah. And you are sitting behind your Rein shield waiting for your opportunity, and then you explode past the opposing team, and you get into the back line, and you get those picks, and you get those heroes, and you get that damage. But it only gets insta-kills if you are hitting directs, which rewards raw mechanics, aim ability, everything the game stands for, pro play, and it fixes a lot of the issues. This also takes Pharah out of the air, so you're not constantly forced to open up a hit scan. It makes it so that she's very bursty in the air with her verticality, but she still has it as a raw mechanic. This fixes all three zones of invulnerability. If we can fix these, it forces these three heroes in line with team play versus individual play, which is where they sit now, because these three heroes don't give a fuck about anybody else on their team, except for Pharah, who cares about Mercy because she's her baby's mama. Other than that, I don't think there's a big issue with pretty much any other heroes. Widow is pure skill reward. She's a sniper. That's how snipers are designed. They sit off in the distance. If you let a Widow get on your flank, you fucked up even harder. Like, and dealing with a Widow is not hard. Widow's mobility is nowhere near the caliber of these three heroes. So the objective is going to be to get onto their side of the map. Doesn't matter what map it is on Ilios. And then I'm going to try and pull people away from the objective, and I'm going to try and get damage for free, and I'm going to get them to try and designate resources. Apply pressure, rewind, blink past him, keep applying pressure, blinks up, zone of vulnerability, I wait, blink management's all that matters. I'm going to go back in now. Microing. She has to turn or she's going to die. She has to turn, she has to die. And again, I'm just gonna go back. Microing the zone. Doesn't matter. I don't want to be here. I might be here. They're gonna designate a tracer to follow me. Still doesn't matter. I'm in the back zone. Zone of vulnerability. Doesn't matter who. As previously said, doesn't matter the damage I do as long as I'm doing some damage. I died. It's my fucked up. But still, you get the concept. If I do this correctly, I never die. Just fact. Somebody used pull spawn this time, doing the exact same thing. My team is winning. Effectively, I am doing nothing. Technically. A limb, one a limb. 600 damage. Not really doing anything amazing. Fuck the diva, I don't care about her. She has to chase me if she wants me. I'm doing my job. In the back line, throw that, rewind, just throwing out damage. Come get me, my team still has the point. Hi Mercy, I'm just gonna do damage to you, because unless somebody deals with me, I'm just gonna profit. Just throwing damage. I'm in that zone of invulnerability. Somebody has to designate something to do to me. I'm gonna go back over here, back to the zone of invulnerability. Micro from side to side. Force the person to chase me. There's Mercy again. I'm gonna come up behind Mercy. I still have my E. I'm just gonna come up behind her. Throw damage. Rewind. Back up. He's dead. Rewind. Blink. Zone of invulnerability. Nothing can happen to me. Go to the other side. Zone of invulnerability. Fall off doesn't matter. I'm doing damage. The amount of damage is irrelevant. I'm taking people away from the point. Now I close the gap. Doesn't matter. 99. I've taken 2 people out of the fight, and my team is winning the fight. Single round of cough. Did I win it? Probably not. I have 3 kills. My team won it, but I used a mechanic that literally forces them to do something about me in their backline, or I just win the game. Because my team is going to win this fight on point. Again, I'm going to come around, zone of invulnerability, looking for damage. Died to an ult, doesn't matter. Got fucking mercy. This is why these mechanics on the back end are the flankers in general. These zones of invulnerability and the ability for me to tie people up using mobility, not really doing anything, are bad. I don't care about the opposing team. Well, not the opposing team. I don't care about my team. My team just needs to play the objective. Passively do what they do. And they'll be fine.